here. Been through hell and back. I'm here. I'm stronger than I know I'm gonna be fine. I'm here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Golden's Guide to Divorce. I'm Deborah Hawkins, and I'm here because about 50 days ago, my husband looked at me and said, I want a divorce. Now, that doesn't always mean there's an immediate divorce. You know, for some people, there's counseling and those kind of things. But for me, that was not the case. There were too many factors involved, and I was faced immediately with, oh, wow, I'm 63, and what happens now? So I want the show to be about us taking the stigma away from not being willing to talk about it, to bring it out into the open, that, yeah, mature women get a divorce, and yeah, they still have lives afterwards. And, you know, I want this, I don't want people to be afraid of the word anymore. So what I'm going to talk about today, because I am right deep in it, I'm 50 days or so from the time I was told, which it was very unexpected. And so what we're going to talk about is today I've got 3 points that I really want to drive home to you around if this happens to you in a very unexpected way, and what are the 3 things you can do to immediately take care of yourself. You know, the first thing I want to bring up, and this is going to be hard for a lot of people, it was really hard for me, and that's really going against the grain. Do what you normally never do. Whatever your behavior is, do the opposite. And even though that sounds really hard, and I'm going to give you an example, it's important, and I'm going to explain why. When I found out, I immediately was worried about my security and, you know, what am I going to do? And will I have money to put gas in my car? And can I get dog food for my dog? I mean, all these things started running through my head. And so what I did was I immediately took half of the money out of the checking account. Now, let me tell you, that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. That's not like me. It's probably not like you either, because when you're going through a divorce or when someone gives you that statement, you still want to believe that they're going to do the right thing. But that's not always the case. And so what I'm offering today is for you to consider taking care of yourself. Really, all these points are around reevaluating how we do things, because it's time, especially at this age, to take care of yourself. So I immediately took half the money out, which, by the way, is legal. Did find that out. It is legal to do that. And then I also want to say, you know, as women, we are so trained to look for the good in people, even when they treat us bad. I mean, I know that some of you women can relate to that. We do. We continually look for the good, even sometimes, you know, when it's at our expense. So consider that. I also, within the first 48 hours, I sought out an attorney, which was just as hard as taking the money. Literally, I felt like I wanted to throw up, because there was something about making the move to speak with an attorney that felt so final and so scary and so like, oh my God, I am going to be alone. I had to have my son go with me. I was shaking, walking in the door. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to face it because, you know, it's becoming real. But I also needed to know some very specific things about my security. So please consider doing that. I found out some things that actually I was so paranoid about, I couldn't function. And within 15 minutes, I found out what was actually true, not what I thought in my head, not what someone had told me, but actually what the law is for those of us who are on the other side. And it gave me immediate relief. And trust me, in that moment, I needed all the relief I could get. So don't be afraid of that. The third thing is that I did, I immediately sought, another place to stay. And, whether that's going to a friend's house, whether that's, staying with family, whatever it might be. And of course, check with the attorney. It's easier to deal with your emotions and the fact of divorce if you're not living with the person. So I've seen many people, it drag out, and it's so painful. It's just so friggin' painful to live in the same house with somebody who doesn't want to be with you, right? So I know that a lot of this, it goes against what we normally do as women, but this is so needed because as women, we take care of our husbands, we take care of our children, we take care of the communities and the church, but we land last on the list. And this is why doing these things, even though they seem extreme in the first 48 hours, are so important because it is really about you now. All right, so the second point I want to talk about is moving through the fear. Okay, so let's think about it. When he said that to me, I wanted to fall out, get sick, curl up in a ball. It's that fight or flight syndrome. And I think for most of us women, it's more of the flight. It's more of the recoiling. It's more of the, oh my God, what am I going to do? There's all this immediate, there's 1,000 things running through your mind. And it's scary. It's terrifying. In some of the work I've done before, I know that we think in upwards of 70,000+ thoughts a day. And most of those thoughts are negative, especially when you're in trauma. So it becomes very hard to think logically, which is why we need someone to tell us the facts. Your head is spinning. What am I going to do? Am I going to lose my house? Am I going to, are my children not going to speak to me? What are the neighbors going to say? Oh my God, the church is going to view me differently. All those things running through your head, you have to have someone help you clear the landscape to get to the logic and the facts, because there's a big difference there. But when you're in trauma, the mind will take you to all kind of places that you don't want to go, and staying in that state will keep you from making decisions that could affect you for the rest of your life. So immediately get someone who is objective. Go to a therapist, go to an attorney, someone who can really remove all the garbage in your mind and just get to facts. And, for us women, we live in an emotional world. We don't necessarily do facts first up, we might get there, but generally, we live in a feeling world and in an emotional world. So you've got to get someone to help you really clear everything out. For instance, your mind might say, oh my God, I'm a divorced woman. And all the things that your mind tells you about that, the story you tell yourself about that. But the reality is, the fact is, you're a woman moving through a divorce, that's more fact. So that may not be the best example, but that's what comes to mind now. Our mind can take us, everywhere into more fear. So what I'm wanting to share with you in my experience, is to get the people who can remove the emotion, look at the facts so that you can make better choices. Because in the end, the better choices you make quickly in the first 48 hours or the first week, really the better off you're going to be. So really consider that. And, most of us, we lose our logic when we're in trauma. And for a lot of women, we retreat. So curl up in a ball and say, I can't deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. And this is when you need those people who are really going to help you see clearly. All right, so on to the third thing that I think is really important when it happens to you quickly. I'm not saying in the first 2 points to be stoic by any means. I'm not saying, just move through it, bulldoze through it. That's not what I want at all, because this third point is so important, and that is about feeling your feelings. Most of us, when we're in the middle of that, we're feeling shame and guilt, and we are ashamed of our feelings, and we may be ashamed of what other people think about what we're feeling. But I'm here to tell you that dealing with the emotions right off the bat, don't try to put them away, hide them away, don't pour pink paint over everything and act like you're fine. Deal with the emotions immediately, like you're doing everything else, because that also is going to clear the space for you to go forward and think clearly. It's super, super important. I can remember probably a week after, you have to give yourself room to feel no matter what and give yourself permission. I can remember being in a client meeting and I don't know, 10 minutes in and tears start coming, down my face. And you don't always get to choose when the emotions come and when they don't. But if there's any way possible, and I kind of broke down with the client, but you know what? They were so kind. And I think the way the world is today right now, and this makes me emotional, everybody's in some kind of pain. So I think, if you have a breakdown or a meltdown or cry in front of someone, I don't think it's a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of, being willing to take care of yourself in the deepest way. And if we don't deal with our emotions, they will deal with us. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this saying or not, but have you ever heard the saying, when the kids drive in the car, and that's what happens a lot of times when we don't deal with our emotions. It's that part of us inside that is young and hurt, and we all know what happens when the kid drives the car. There's a crash, so we don't want that happening for you. So, and also if we don't deal with our emotions, they come out in other ways. Drinking too much, eating too much, not eating enough, working out too much. So I think if we don't deal with our emotions, it can be destructive. So it's a really big thing. And sometimes you just need a witness. Sometimes you just need someone you don't need for them to tell you what to do. You just need a witness, maybe just to hear you or just sit there with you when you cry, That's really important. And if you don't have a friend, that can be that. Sometimes our friends get deep in the cesspool with us and, that's not really helpful. That's usually what happens, but it's not really helpful. But if you can get a therapist or a friend, a trusted friend, to be there as a witness so you can get those feelings out. And I've got some other great tips about getting your feelings out on other episodes. It's really important. And I want to end that point saying this. What we're going through, and you may be in different points of the stages than I am, but like any big situation in your life, this is a process. It's not a happening. And we have to treat it as such. So, all right. Well, that was a lot of heavy stuff, but we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I've got something fun to introduce. We're going to have something, a part of our show called the Golden Toolbox. And I'll be excited to share on each episode a tool that you can take and use, and sometimes in the privacy of your home. And, I'm hoping it's going to help you. So we'll be back in a minute.
This episode of The Golden's Guide to Divorce is proudly brought to you by Franny's Pharmacy of Greenville, a leading seed-to-shelf hemp and CBD brand. From tinctures to topicals and everything in between, Franny's Pharmacy Greenville is the most curated and thoughtfully stocked CBD dispensary in the Southeast. Whether you're shopping in-store or online, rest assured they only bring you the best of the best. Check out Franny'sPharmacyGreenville.com today and enjoy free shipping.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm really excited to show you the newest addition to our show. It'll be here every week. And for those of you that are listening, I am right now touching a beautiful golden toolbox. And so if you really want to see what it looks like and what's in there, you might want to look at the show, not just listen. But anyway, okay, so some of you are going to be shocked. Some of you are going to laugh. Some of you are going to think, what in the world is wrong with that lady? But actually, there is a doll in this toolbox. And the tip here is about working with those deep emotions that we've been talking about. And this is a way to take it deeper for yourself, by yourself, alone. There's a lot to be said about inner child work. And there's a lot out there to read. But for those of you who may not be familiar with it, this is a tool that I've been using for probably 20 years. When many years ago, I was dealing with a trauma, and I couldn't connect in. You know how we were talking earlier about giving yourself permission to feel? I was having a hard time connecting into my feelings. And so into the child inside that is hurt, that in this moment of finding out, you're getting a divorce, there is a child in there, that a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old that is terrified and that is saying, I don't want this. I'm scared. Am I going to have a home? What's going to happen to me? So this is a tool that I've used for a long time. And this is actually little Debbie. Sorry, she's a little worn. She's not exactly, her little dress is not as clean as it used to be. But she has helped me tremendously connect into that part of me that needs that nurturing. And, for me, it's been very helpful. I actually lost my mom when I was a kid and my dad not too long after. So I never really got the nurturing from parents. And, when you go through something like this, you need to be nurtured. There is that part inside that's so terrified and it's screaming to be noticed. And so I want to invite you, whether you want to go out and get a baby doll to reconnect or whether you just want to consider how to connect into that part of you that needs to know everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And for me, there's at times when I'm really down, there's no therapist, there's no friend, there's no family member that can tell me what I really need to hear. Only I know that. Only you know that. So being able to hold yourself, to love yourself, and let your that child inside of you know that it's going to be all right no matter what, you have no idea the healing that can come. So I know this seems all crazy, but we're going to laugh on here. We're going to laugh about our tools. We're going to cry about things. This is a real show, and I want you to really consider what I'm saying here. Inner child work is huge, and many therapists can walk you through it. I'm happy to put some links in the show notes, so you can look it up if you're not familiar with it. But I can tell you, I sometimes have to work with my kid on a daily basis, because do you know how many times you can go through the day and get upset about maybe you got jealous, or you feel rejected, or there's a 1,000 things that we feel. And when I go home at night and I pick her up and I tell that wounded, scared, terrified child inside of me what she needs to hear, and that everything's going to be all right, sometimes it's the only way I believe it. So try it out. See what you think. I know this is crazy. But she has been around a long time, and she has helped me out so much. And, I want to hear about what tools you're using too. I want to know what's working for you, what's not working for you. And I want to be able to share more about it. If y'all have questions about inner child work, please contact me. Any therapist really understands it, a coach. I'm really versed in it myself, so I'm happy to answer questions, or I'd love to hear your comments. I would love to know what you thought about a baby being in this toolbox. She doesn't make it out of the house much, so this is a day trip for her. But anyway, we are going to have another quick break, and when I come back, we will... Actually, no, we're not. No, actually, I'm going to do a recap of everything, because I think it's a really important thing to do right now. So, okay, let's go back over everything. If you find out and it is a total shock to you, and he says, I want a divorce, then what do? The first thing we do is the opposite of what we normally do. We normally take care of everyone else. We're going to take care of ourselves, right? Number 2, we deal with the fear so we can get to the facts. We've got to get somebody to help us connect into that logic so that we can make really good choices for ourselves. Then we've got to deal with our feelings. Truly, truly important. And then this is one tool for you to take that deeper and do it in the privacy of your own home. And, this can bring up a lot of emotion. I mean, I cry with her, or she cries with me, however you want to look at it. But, almost all of us have had trouble in our childhoods, and things have caused traumas. And I want you to consider that it's almost a reparenting tool, because there's probably not a one of us that actually got through childhood completely unscathed. But yeah, just consider how this work can help you. So now we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I'll give you my final thoughts.
Have you tried CBD? If you haven't experienced the healing benefits of hemp and CBD, please call Franny's Pharmacy's Bud Tenders at 864-349-1018. They are your CBD experts and can recommend which products will serve your needs. So give them a ring today, because Deborah knows you deserve to feel better. Franny'sPharmacyGreenville.com.
Hey, I'm back. And before I go into final thoughts, I wanted to bring up one more point, which I think is really important. And I'm sorry I skipped over it, because I think you should know about it. But, talking about little Debbie, the reason I felt it was so important to show you the doll today is because for many of us, sometimes it takes something physical like touch to connect to that deep part on the inside, or it did for me. You know, I mean, you could hold your puppy dog close and say those same things. You know, you could look in the mirror and tell your child those things. But in the end, you know, only I can tell little Debbie what she needs to hear and help her feel safe and secure and it's going to be okay. And you're the only one that can tell your scared, wounded kid inside the same. So I wanted to share that one last point with you. Put her back in here. Go back to napping. Final thoughts. Okay, you know what? Have you noticed when you share with someone what you're going through a divorce or whatever, have you noticed that everybody goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I am so over that phrase. It's like they think that maybe it shouldn't happen. Well, maybe it should have happened. You know, maybe God had another plan for my life or his life or whatever. And I don't like feeling like a victim because I think a lot of times when people say that, you know, I'm start wondering, well, what are they thinking about me? You know, am I pitiful? Am I going to fall off the earth now? Am I going to go away and disappear and, you know, be a nobody? So, and the other thing is, like, when you say, "Oh, I'm sorry," what else do you usually say that to? If somebody's died. Well, I'm not dead. You're not dead. And, you know, we're still here. So, I'm going to end on this. This has been so fun for me to do, scary for me to do, awesome for me to do. But in the end, and it is helping my healing, but in the end, there is a community of us women, my age, 55 plus, that feel like it's not okay to talk about divorce and are embarrassed or ashamed or hide it from people. I mean, I still know people who hide. And it's like, what are we doing hiding it? I mean, you can't heal anything that's hidden. I mean, you have to bring everything out into the light. So I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your questions. I'd love to hear your experience, maybe where you are in your journey right now. And God knows, I'm sure there's plenty of you that know even more than I do. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm just going through the process. And I want to share it with you. And I want you to share it with me. So with that, can't wait to see you next time.